Hi guys, it's Chris. I'm back giving you guys another video. We're going to give you an update on the Society Finches, and also in the same video I'm going to be talking about how to set your Society Finches up to be able to foster other birds. So I know I've had a lot of people ask me if I foster my Mongolian finches or if I use Society Finches as foster parents. The answer is yes. I don't really foster my Mongolian finches out anymore. I did several years back, but I haven't used societies as fosters for my Mongolians for, I'd say, probably about 4 years now, and I've never had an issue. So, but I do use my Society Finches as foster parents for my cutthroat finches. They're down there. Right there, so we got that pair, and then I also will be setting up my shaft tail finches, and for some reason the pair of shaft tails that I have currently, they don't have a problem hatching out the babies, but I've had some issues getting some chicks to the perch, so I may use my Society Finches to foster some shaft tails as well. So we'll just give you a run through real quick of the Society Finches, kind of the pairs I have set up. And then we will talk about what I'm doing currently to prep my Society Finches to be able to foster. So up here, I have one of my albino pairs. So this is a true pair. This is a pair that I had set up last year that gave me 2 clutches of chicks. And the hen just laid her 4th egg. So she is in sitting on the eggs. We'll see if she lays one more. Typically, Society Finches, you can range from eggs anywhere from 2 to 6 eggs, with 4 being about the norm. So we'll see if she lays any more. I kind of wonder if she's going to lay one more. She hasn't been sitting super tight. She's in there now, and her eggs were warm when I felt them when I came in. But so I wonder if she's going to lay one more egg and then start sitting tight. So we got them. I've had my society set up for, they're inside the nest now, both of them, both male and female. So I've had them set up for about 2 weeks now, and these guys are my first ones to lay eggs. So, and I'll give you some updates on a couple of my other pairs that I believe are maybe 2 females. So, and that's one thing I'll talk to you guys about as well, is how do you tell if your Society Finch is male or female. So stay tuned on that. We'll talk about it. So that's our first pair there. So they got 4 eggs. So we're going strong there, looking really well. Then I have this pair of albinos. They're right there. And I believe I have 2 females here. I have not seen either bird sing. So these are babies from last year that I had from a couple different pairs that I thought about setting up this year. And the reason why, yeah, like I said, the reason why I think I have 2 females is I have not seen either bird sing, and they haven't shown a whole ton of interest in the nest box. So I just added this one yesterday to maybe pique some more interest. For some reason, Society Finches, they really like the wicker basket nest boxes, or the wicker baskets nest. I'm not a huge fan of them, just because I've had so many birds get their nails caught in those wicker baskets and have either lost toenails, toes, or even legs. And so I do have some wicker baskets, and I will use those as a last option resort. But I'm trying some different styled nest boxes. So this one is like the closed hole nest right there. And I threw in some nesting material in there. And I've hung some nesting material out of the hole to spark some interest. I even grabbed an old egg that you can see in there. That's not an egg from them. I grabbed an old egg, threw in there. Maybe, hopefully, they would see it and it would trigger them to want to nest. And so, if that fails, zoom in here or focus here. If that fails, I will put in a wicker nest box or wicker basket inside the cage. It's just, these cages are really hard because the openings are so small. It's really hard to fit the wicker baskets in there. And so we kind of got to get creative to get them in there. So that's where we're at with these guys, with that pair. Like I said, I believe I have 2 females. I have not seen either or seen. So we'll see what happens there. Down here, so I do have a pair. And I think they're kind of old. Well, I don't think, I know, because they're closed banded. They're at least 5 years old. Most of my self societies, which are in these 2 cages right here, all of them are about 5 years old, except for one that is 3 years old, because they're all closed banded from the breeder that I got them from. And I've mentioned this in previous videos. I've had a really hard time getting these guys to breed for me every year. And I don't know, you know, I've tried different things, different nest boxes, different diets, that sort of thing. So I don't know what the deal is, but one thing I have set these guys up for is if I can't get them to breed for me, they still will incubate eggs for me. So I have started to put some eggs in there, some dummy eggs, to get them to lay, or to get them to sit for me. And I'm gonna hopefully try and get these guys to foster out some cutthroat chicks for me. One thing that is good is because these guys are dark brown, the cutthroat chicks, when they hatch, the chicks are all dark brown, so almost a black color. So I think that'll work out nicely with these guys. Even though typically Society Finch chicks are pink when they first hatch out, but we'll see what we can get. So I did put some eggs in there, and you can see that the hen, she's in the nest sitting. This is the male that's sitting out there. He sings all the time. So I have some false eggs in there that they have started sitting on. And then these guys, I have a trio. I have 1 male and 2 females. Kind of the same thing, having a hard time getting them to breed. The male sings to them all the time, but the females just don't seem to be super interested. So I also put some eggs in there, and they actually started sitting. This was my first trio or pair to start sitting on the dummy eggs that I put in. And so what I did is once they started sitting, my cutthroats had laid 3 eggs, so I pulled out those eggs and I put them in here. So these guys are actually sitting on cutthroat eggs. I'm not sure if the eggs will be fertile. She laid them pretty quick after I put the pair in there together. So we'll see what happens. Even if they're not, we'll let them lay again, and I'll grab her eggs and I'll put in there with these guys that are already sitting on eggs. So I think we're kind of a win-win. So real quick, excuse me, while we're talking about these guys and fostering, let me talk about how I set these guys up to be able to foster. I think lots of times people think that if you just throw societies together, you put a nest box in there and then dump a bunch of other birds' eggs in there, they'll just automatically go to sitting. And that's not true. You have to basically, the term is called getting your birds broody or wanting to sit on eggs. And so what I've done, you know, it's not a fast process. And so really what it entails is you put your pairs together and you put a nest box in there. And then you give them about a week. And within that week, whether it's 2 males, 2 females, 3 females, whatever it is that you want to set up, and I can get into that in a little bit, it takes some time. They got to discover the nest box. Then you add nesting material, and they usually will go and build a nest, or in some of these cases, I just put the nesting material in the nest box for them and kind of lined it all out. And then I got a couple nesting material pieces and I hung it out the entrance of the nest box. Then they see it, piques their curiosity. They jump in the nest box and discover that they have a nest in there. And then once I see that the birds have gone in and out of their nest box, that's when I start to introduce the eggs. And I have dummy eggs. So let me show you right here. So I have 2 dummy eggs right here. These are hard plastic eggs. I just bought them from LadyGoldieandFinch.com. Zoom in there so you guys can see them better. Okay, they're a little bit bigger than a society egg, but it doesn't make that big of a difference. They'll accept it just as they are. So what I do, once I see that the birds are going into their nest box, okay, zoom in here. The reason why I have to have a towel over there is there's a little gap in between the nest box and the cage, and they can escape. So I have to put towels over. These are open front nest boxes, and those ones are like the closed hole nest boxes. And so so what I do is I put 1 egg a day in their nest box until I have 4 eggs. And that usually, so when the birds, I put the first egg in there, and I usually will do it in the morning. Then the birds, they see that 1 egg all day. And then the next day I put the second egg in there, and the birds, they see there's 2, oh, I just dropped one. The birds see that there's 2 eggs in there all day, and then you eventually do that until you get 4 eggs. And what that does is that triggers the bird's response and helps them become broody or want to sit on the eggs, because that's the natural process. Like these guys right here that have 4 eggs of their own in the nest box, she laid 1 egg a day. And typically your birds don't start sitting tightly on those eggs until about the 4th egg, especially with society finches. So that's kind of, you're tricking them, right? And they're thinking, oh, my hen is laying an egg every day, and once they get to 4, then they start sitting on them. And so, but you have to make sure that your birds, they know that there's a nest, they're in and out of the nest, they see that there is, and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes I'll put eggs in there. So like these guys, I've started to put eggs in there. I just put the second one in there today. They haven't really been super interested in the nest box. So it might not work. They might not take to the eggs, and they might not sit on them, but we'll see, right? It's a trial and error. And so that's kind of the process of what you need to do if you want your society finches to sit on other birds' eggs. And when I have the 4 fake dummy eggs, I wait another day or 2 just to make sure that they really are sitting on those eggs before I put real eggs in there. Because if you put the other birds' eggs in there that you want them to incubate, and they're not sitting tightly, those eggs are gonna die, right? And you're not gonna have any babies from those eggs anyways. So it's important that you do that, and you make sure that you're prepping them and following a step-by-step process to get them to sit on those eggs. And so that's what I've done with these guys. I've slowly added 1 egg at a time until I got to the 4. These guys started sitting after I laid the 4 eggs right away. I gave them a day, they sat on the eggs. And how I know that they're sitting on the eggs is when I come in the morning and evening, I'll pull those eggs out, and I'll actually put the egg to my cheek, and I can feel that the eggs are warm or cold. That's how I know. I'm sure there's other ways. You could temp gun it, or find some other way to check if the eggs are warm. But if the eggs are warm, that's telling me that they're sitting on them consistently, and I can put some real eggs in there. So these guys are sitting on cutthroat eggs. These guys are sitting on, they're actually real eggs, but they're not viable. And you can see they're not sitting super tight. The females come back out. They both like to sit there on the perch. Whereas like these guys who have their own eggs, I probably won't see that female for the rest of the day unless I push her out. So that's kind of where we're at. These guys, I believe it's the male that's been sitting on the eggs mostly. And I haven't seen him for most of the morning, so that's a good sign. I want them to be able to sit on those eggs consistently so that they can hatch them out. So in order to foster, you need to set up your pair. And to be honest with you, 2 males have worked best for me, and I'll tell you why. Males don't lay eggs. I've had many times where I've had a pair of females and they've started sitting on eggs for me, foster eggs, and then all of a sudden the females, they start laying eggs of their own. And I look in the nest box and I have 8 eggs in there instead of 4, and now I have to figure out which ones are the eggs that I put in and which ones are the eggs that they laid, right? Now the eggs that you put in should be fertile, and their eggs they lay shouldn't be fertile, right? Because you don't have a male in there. But that's one reason why I like, if I try to foster, I like to do 2 males. And the males seem to be a little bit easier to trick and get them to sit in the nest and sit on the eggs. So just from experience, I'm not saying that you can't use 2 females, because I have before and I've been successful at it, but they tend to lay eggs and they tend to be a little bit harder to trick to sit on those eggs on the nest. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Society finches are great foster parents. I've fostered Golden finches. I've fostered cutthroats. I've fostered shaft tails. I've fostered even cordon bleu finches. That was really tricky. I had one special pair that just was awesome at it, and they fostered them for me. So they are good foster birds and foster parents. And it's best if you can grab a young society finch that hasn't raised any babies before. They tend to be your best parents, because I think, you know, if they've raised their own chicks before and then they all of a sudden the next year have someone else's chicks, I think sometimes they question like, hey, is this really my chick or not? Not saying that they won't raise them, because they have for me, and they will for you, but that's just kind of something to look at. So there's some tips on fostering. Hopefully that helps you guys out. My last pair here is another pair of whites, and so they've been a little slow to breed for me as well. I have also put some eggs in there just to try and pique and spark their interest. This is a pair, so I'm hoping that I will get some babies from them. Sometimes society finches take 2 to 3 weeks before they start laying any eggs or anything like that. So if you feel like it's taking a long time, just be patient. Give them a chance, and if it's not working out, like I said before, swap out the nest box. Try a different nest box, try a wicker basket, to see if that piques their interest and makes them want to breed for you. So that's the update that we have here on the society finches. So we got 1 pair on eggs, on their own eggs. I got a pair on cutthroat eggs. I believe I have a pair of 2 females. So I'm on the lookout for a male society finch that I can buy and put in. I do want it to be an albino or an all white. So we'll have to see there. There's not very many around. And then we got them that are sitting on some dummy eggs that are kind of in and out of the nest. And then these guys, I may have, no, I do have a male and female here. They just haven't really taken to the nest box. So probably if they haven't done anything in another 2 or 3 days, I'm going to swap out the nest box, give them something different, try that out for a week or 2. If that doesn't work, we'll try a wicker basket and go from there. So I really think they would take the wicker basket right away, but I'm trying not to put that in just because I don't want to have potential injuries with my birds. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Give you guys a good little update on the birds. Oh, look, my hand finally came out. It's coming out to say hi. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And hopefully I answered some questions on fostering society finches. How to tell the gender: your male sings and your female lays eggs. That is the only way to tell. There's no other visual markings on society finches that tell you if they're a male or female. Like Java finches, males have a more swollen beak. Shaft tail finches, the male's bibs are a little bit bigger and kind of more like an hourglass shape. There's little tiny signs and tails that you can have for other birds. Not the case for society finches. Your male sings, your female lays eggs. That's how you tell. So sometimes it's harder to put these guys or pair them up and find a true pair, but that's what you got to do, right? So trial and error, put some together. Best way to get a male society finch to sing is separate him into a cage by himself, and he will start singing within a day or 2 and won't stop until you put him with a female. So that's a good way to tell with these guys whether you have a male or female. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully gave you some good tips and some ways to help if you're trying to foster finches out, or if you're just trying to breed your society finches. So hopefully that'll help for you guys. Appreciate you watching this. Appreciate the support. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Share the video on any way you can. Get the word out. So appreciate you guys. Have a good one.